Fellow Frugalistas, there are 4 things you should quit doing.
Is that a word? Or did you just make that up?
Whether you're new to the world of frugality or you're a seasoned pro, there are some things that may have worked their way into your life, and we think these are things that maybe you should stop doing. We're going to give you our list, and we're counting on you guys to chime in the comments section and tell us what you think are some things that frugal people just gotta stop doing.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And you're with Under the Median, where we talk about frugality, practical frugality.
Now, if you're sensing that maybe our voices sound a little bit weird, yes, it is true. Larry and I are both fighting head colds.
We have his and hers.
That's right. And it's very weird because like 2 days ago, literally, we just dropped a video on some things that are sitting in your pantry that may help you fight the common cold. So you guys know. So he's taking some echinacea tincture that I made.
Yeah.
And we both have some lemon tea.
Balm. Yeah.
So here's the tea in case you guys want to know what we're drinking. This is from the bulk herb store. It is lemon drop tea. So that's what we are doing. Plus, we have our dedicated Kleenex boxes that we are carrying around the house with us. But we didn't want to miss our regular Thursday video, so we are still going to record it, and we'll make sure that we're with you tomorrow night after we get this video edited and uploaded. There's another thing that we really wanted to catch up on real quick before we get into the topic of today's program, and that is we recently did a video on 50 ways that you can save on gas costs, because we all know they're going crazy, right? Well, we have some exciting news, something we think might prove to be really helpful for you.
Well, there were a good amount of tips that we gave on that video. One of them was riding your bike more, maybe riding it to work, riding it to the grocery store. If you've got roads that are safe to ride on, a bike is definitely a good alternative to gas cars. Well, what we have coming up probably in May, I'm thinking it's in May, right?
First week of May. Be watching for it, guys.
First week of May, we're going to do a review on an e-bike, and we'll cover that in May. And I don't own an e-bike. I've never had one, so this will be a first. And when it comes in, I will give it a try out and let you know what it's like.
Tell us if you own an e-bike. Tell us in the comments section. We'd love to know if some of you actually own one. We've never had one. Super excited to try one out. All right. 4 things that we think y'all might need to quit doing. Number 1, quit chasing every new idea. Frugality is like anything else. Who remembers the Beanie Baby trend, right? It was this huge thing that everybody all of a sudden thought that they needed to have. Frugality is a little bit like that too. We have a couple, 3 trends that we think we see going on in frugality. Tell us what you think in the comments section. The no-buy challenge. Now, you guys know we are huge fans of a no-buy challenge. We think there's definite value in basically taking a pause and spending money and figuring out, what you're spending money on that you ought to be spending money on and what you maybe shouldn't be spending money on. But it is nevertheless a trend. What happens if people don't jump on that trend? They feel guilty.
Yeah, so if you're put off by the no-buy challenge, let that go and pick up on some of the other things that you can do to be frugal. You don't have to do every single thing.
Here's another trend we see in frugality, equating frugality with buying cheap. And we've talked about this before too, that those are not the same words. Frugal people buy quality. They just tend to buy quality items and they wait until they can get a discount on said quality items. But we do buy quality. The thing with frugality is, and we've said this before too, and we'll say it again, frugality is not about deprivation. It's about choosing when, where, and how you're going to spend your money. So do we ever drop a bucket load of money? We do, actually. But we choose those specific moments that we're actually going to spend money on something.
And certainly if you spend a little bit extra money on a very good quality item, it's going to be worth it because that item will serve you better and last you longer. So you actually, in the long run, are saving money by spending just a little bit more for something that's made better.
So what are some additional problems with this whole idea of chasing every new frugal idea that comes out? We like to call it shiny object syndrome. So you got your plan, you got your spending plan, you got your goals written down, you're headed toward them, and all of a sudden somebody says, well, you should be doing this instead. And it's like you go, it's like a hard right turn, right? And if you do that all the time, here's what will wind up happening. If you start chasing all these new ideas, you will actually wind up making less progress on the stuff that you've already written down that is super important to you. You'll actually be better at focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 goals at a time and going hard toward those goals, setting these other things aside that are new trends in frugality and saying, you know what? I'm going to make a mental note, might come back to it later, might not, but it's okay idea. Right now, I'm not going to pursue that. And that's okay.
Hope and I are big supporters of slow and steady wins the race. Now, we didn't become ultra frugal overnight. We took it in steps. We took one area and we tightened up a little bit. Yeah. Then we saw another area once we got good at the first one, and so on. So we worked steps at a time to get to where we're at in our frugality.
Okay, second thing we think that you might need to quit doing, and that is quit overcomplicating budgeting. Now, if you are a visual person like me and you love details, seriously love details, you will tend to have like a budget where other people would have 12 categories and have like 30 categories. Now, so my question to you would be, do you really need 30 categories, or is it just making you feel better to have 30 categories down on paper? Because what you have down on paper doesn't matter if you're not following through with a plan. So don't overcomplicate your budget and deliberately make it like super duper complicated with all these things you need to do if it's not going to work for you.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. The more that you have going, the more you have to manage. It can become a snowball effect.
So here's our suggestion for you instead of overcomplicating your budgeting process. Start out with what we call your bare bones budget. Make sure that you have food, transportation, and housing completely covered. That should be the first thing you cover in any budget. Then fit in everything else around it in addition to it as you need to. But as long as you keep those 3 things covered, you're going to be good.
So before moving on to our third point, if you're liking this video, hit the like button. And if you like what you're seeing on our channel, we would just want to invite you to subscribe. That helps out our algorithms and it helps get these videos to you.
All right. Third thing we think that you might need to stop doing is, this is huge, and I do mean huge, guys. Quit comparing yourself to others. We do it all the time, don't we? We're like, oh, well, she bakes all of her own bread from scratch. I should stop buying that nasty store-bought bread, because if I really cared about my family, I would be baking that bread from scratch. Yet, in reality, you're working 50 hours a week trying to make sure you can support your family and pay off debt and live debt-free and reach your goals and reach your dreams. And now you're trying to put something else on your plate. But the only reason you're doing it is because you saw someone else doing it. Never, ever in life do something just because you see someone else doing it and you feel almost guilted into adding it to your own plate. And that includes stuff that we tell you as well. We assume that when you are watching this channel, you're going to eat the meat and spit out the bones. Well, we're vegan, so maybe we're not going to eat the meat, but you get the idea. We assume that, and we've said it before, we're the spaghetti at the wall channel. We're going to give you lots and lots of ideas, and it's up to you to decide what sticks to your wall and what doesn't.
We tend to put expectation on ourselves that we would never place on other people.
True.
So we load ourselves down with all these things that we think frugality is, and we make it an impossible task, and it doesn't need to be that way. We need to simplify that a little bit.
So the road to frugality, we can say, is actually paved with good intentions. I think all of these things are good. Is it good to bake your own bread? Yeah, to a certain extent, it's good. It's healthier, certainly. But if that's something that's not going to fit into your life, don't feel like you absolutely have to do it. Here's another example. Let's say you are working 50 hours one week and you swing into drive-through on your way home and you immediately feel guilty. You're like, oh gosh, a frugal person would never do that. Well, you know what the truth is? A frugal person does occasionally do that. They generally have a portion of their budget set aside for doing that, but you should never feel guilty for occasionally swinging through the drive-thru and being afraid that people who are frugal around you are going to see you and go, well, that's just not frugal.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like being on a diet and maybe you've given up sweets. But is it wrong to have a cookie once in a while? No, indulge yourself. You're not doing it all the time. Once in a while, it's okay. And in regards to the frugality, it's good to adjust for a very busy schedule sometimes. You know, Hope wasn't feeling good at all this week. She got this head cold before I did. I came down with it.
I think I gave it to him.
Pretty hard
Sorry,
today, actually. But I stopped by the store and picked up some bread from the store. Now, she bakes her own bread, but I didn't feel guilty about buying some bread when she didn't feel like making it. And the same, we're going to do some laundry today. A lot of times we like to line dry if it's nice. Well, we got two problems. We both don't feel good, and it's raining like cats and dogs outside. So we're going to dry it in the dryer.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's okay.
We're going to use our dryer. We're just letting you know now. This is not like a confessional, but we're just telling you guys, do we occasionally actually use that dryer that's sitting there? Of course we do.
Yep.
And you know what? You need to be able to do that too without feeling guilty about it. So here's what we think you should do instead of constantly comparing yourselves to others. You need to write down what your core values are, your values when it comes to frugality. What is it about frugality that is really important to you? And then when something new comes across your path, someone else is doing, compare it to that list and say, does this fit in with what my core values are? If it does, you might want to adopt it. If it doesn't fit into your life right now for whatever reason, you might want to set it aside and say, you know what, I might pick that habit up later. I may not, and that's okay.
Number 4 is quit believing that the experts know best for you.
Here's a news flash. The experts are not you. There's a lot of opinions out there. Now, do we follow the experts? Yeah. I mean, Dave Ramsey, I'm reading his new book right now on millionaires, and it's very interesting. But, you know, there are things in that book that I'm going to go, yeah, that really resonates with me. And there are things I'm going to go, you know, that point, not so much. But that's what a lifelong love of learning is all about. And we've talked about this before, that we really feel like people who are frugal, that's something that I think all of us do have in common, is the fact that we love learning new things. But along with that love of learning new things comes with the realization that not every expert is going to know everything. Do we know everything?
No. And in fact, if you're listening to an expert that's making you feel less than you are, then maybe you need to set that one aside.
So we hope that you will always listen to the advice and the suggestions and the tips that we give, and always say, does this fit my situation right now? Does it fit my goals at all? And if it doesn't, man, we are with you. We want to help you win at this frugality thing. We want to help you pay off debt, help you budget, help you grab great big goals and refuse to let go. And you will never, ever, ever be guilted by us for choosing not to adopt any of the tips that we give. Now, we've told you what we think you ought to quit doing. If you're thinking, well, what should I be doing? We did a video on it. Thank you so much for asking. There's actually 10 very unique things that we think frugal people have in common and that they do all the time. Those habits are listed right over there in that video. Give it a watch. Who remembers the baby beanie trend? Like Beanie Baby. I am so sick.